If I had to choose one skill that almost everyone wants to have, I'm pretty sure time management would be near the top of the list. But here's what's interesting. Most of us want to manage our time better without ever stopping to ask why we actually need that skill in the first place. Do you want to get more done, feel less stressed, or maybe you're just tired of reaching the end of the day feeling like you were busy the entire time, but somehow nothing truly important got finished? That's the real problem. Some people work from morning until night, with almost no time to rest. They're constantly busy, constantly rushing from one thing to another, yet at the end of the day, there's still unfinished work waiting for them, and the harder they push, the more exhausted they become. Then there are people on the complete opposite side. They spend most of their time on things that don't really matter. They always feel like there's plenty of time left. But months, sometimes even years go by, and their life shows almost no meaningful progress. At first, these two groups seem completely different. One is too busy, the other has too much free time. But in reality, they have exactly the same problem. They both don't know how to use their time. That's why I want to dedicate this entire video to answering one simple question. How can we use the same 24 hours we get every day more effectively? How can we do meaningful work while still having enough time to rest, learn, take care of ourselves, and be present for the people around us without eventually burning ourselves out? And here's the interesting part. The answer isn't doing more, it isn't sleeping less, and it definitely isn't another productivity app or some perfectly color-coded calendar. Before we talk about tools or techniques, we need to change the way we think about time, because if the way you see time is wrong from the beginning, every technique you use afterward will only become a temporary solution. In this video, I'm going to break everything down into two parts. The first part is about getting rid of some of the most common misconceptions people have about time management. And the second part is where we'll get into practical principles and solutions you can actually apply to your own life. And I hope you don't rush through this. Don't try to watch as quickly as possible and miss the point along the way, because it's better to watch slowly and actually understand something than to finish the entire video and change nothing. Because time management doesn't begin with a clock. It begins with how you value each hour of your life. Before we talk about any method or tool, there's one illusion we need to get rid of, because almost all of us have believed it at some point, and it sounds like this: I'm too busy, or I don't have time. But do you really not have time, or is that simply something you've been telling yourself for so long that you've stopped questioning it? Let's do some very simple math. Everyone gets 24 hours a day. Let's say you sleep for about 7 hours and work for 8. That's 15 hours. Then add about an hour for commuting, an hour for eating, and basic daily needs, another hour if you have to cook, an hour to talk with family or friends, and one more hour to rest and relax. Even with a fairly generous estimate, that only adds up to around 21 hours, which means you still have about 3 completely free hours every day. 3 hours, not 3 minutes, not 30 minutes, 3 hours. So the question is, where did those 3 hours go? If you look closely, you'll probably realize that most of that time disappears into very small things: scrolling on your phone, watching short videos, reading things you didn't need to read, jumping from one app to another, doing a lot of things without actually doing anything that matters. That's why I don't believe most people are truly lacking time. What we lack isn't time. What we lack is intention in how we use it. We often say we're busy, but the truth is that a lot of the time we're simply busy with things that aren't important, and that's a very different problem. But the next question is even more important. If you know something matters, why do you still avoid doing it? Why do you procrastinate? Why do you keep waiting until the last possible moment before you finally begin? The answer isn't always discipline, it's meaning. People naturally make time for things that feel meaningful to them, and if deep down you don't genuinely see the value of something, you will always find a reason to delay it. That's why so many people only start working when the deadline is right in front of them. It's not necessarily because they're lazy. Their only motivation is avoiding the consequences. They act because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't, not because they truly understand the value of the work itself. Think about another example. Imagine someone preparing to open their first business. They might spend hours choosing desks and chairs, designing the office, making the sign, arranging every little detail, and somehow all of it gives them energy. Why? Because they can immediately see the meaning behind every action. Every desk feels like progress. Every sign makes the dream feel a little more real. But when it comes to things that create long-term value, like learning a new skill, writing content, building a personal brand, or learning another language, a lot of people give up very quickly, not because those things are necessarily harder, but because the results take too long to see. We don't feel the reward immediately. And when we can't see the meaning behind what we're doing, our motivation to continue starts disappearing too. That's the real root of the problem. You don't lack time. You don't lack ability either. You just haven't fully connected what you're doing today with the future you actually want. And until that connection exists, every time management plan you create will remain nothing more than something written on paper. But once the meaning becomes strong enough, managing your time stops feeling like something you're forcing yourself to do. It becomes a choice you willingly make every day. By this point, we've understood something important. You don't lack time. You're simply spending your time on things that you haven't truly decided are important. So the next question is, how do you actually manage your time effectively? Before we talk about any system or tool, imagine a 25-year-old man. During the day, he works a full-time job from 9 to 5. After work, he still goes to the gym. At night, he spends a few hours building a small business of his own. And on weekends, he still makes time for his family and friends. Here's what's interesting. He still has exactly the same 24 hours you do. Not 26 hours, not 30. So why can he keep moving forward while so many other people constantly say they're too busy? The answer isn't that he works more. He knows exactly what deserves his time. When it's time to train, he trains. When it's time to work, he works. When it's time to build his personal project, the phone goes to the side. Not because he has more willpower than everyone else, but because he already decided what matters before the moment arrived. And that's something a lot of people never do. They wake up without a clear plan. They pick up their phone just to check one message. 10 minutes later, they're watching a video. 20 minutes after that, they're reading comments. And suddenly, an hour is gone. They never consciously decided to waste their time, but one small decision after another quietly stole their entire morning. That's why so many people feel busy all day, yet at night they can barely remember what they actually accomplished. That isn't time management. That's just reacting to whatever happens around you. Real time management begins when you deliberately decide what deserves your attention. Not everything is equally important. Not every email needs an immediate response. Not every message needs to be answered within 5 minutes. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you may be saying no to your biggest goal. That's why successful people often seem surprisingly calm. It's not because they have less to do. It's because they don't allow small things to control their entire day. They know which activities create the most value, and they protect the time dedicated to those activities the same way they would protect an important appointment. Because they understand something very simple. Time management has never been about trying to squeeze more and more tasks into one day. Time management is about making sure your most valuable hours are spent on the things that create the most value. That is the real difference between someone who is always busy and someone who is always moving forward. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. A lot of people spend their lives searching for better time management apps, nicer planners, or the newest productivity system, but somehow their lives still don't change. Not because the tools aren't good enough, but because they still don't know what they're actually trying to build. When your goal becomes clear enough, your time naturally starts organizing itself around it. When the work feels meaningful, you don't need someone constantly reminding you to do it. And when you understand why something matters, waking up earlier, studying for another hour, or turning down short-term pleasure doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore. It simply becomes part of the journey. That's why the people who create the most value aren't necessarily the busiest people. They're the people who know what deserves their time. Imagine two people who both have 3 free hours every day. One of them spends those 3 hours scrolling through social media, watching short videos, and reacting to every notification that appears on their phone. The other person uses those exact same 3 hours to learn a new skill, build a personal project, or develop something that could completely change their future. After 1 week, you probably won't see much difference. After 1 month, the gap starts to appear. After 3 years, their lives may be moving in completely different directions. Not because one person had more time, but because they invested the same time into different things. In the end, time management isn't the art of stuffing more work into your schedule. It's the art of removing what doesn't matter, so you can make room for what actually does. So start with one very small change. Tonight, before you go to sleep, write down the 3 most important things you need to finish tomorrow. Just 3. Don't write 15 things. Don't try to change your entire life overnight. Just finish those 3 things. Then do it again the next day, and the day after that. Let time do the rest. Your life won't change in a single day, but one day used well can begin to change your entire life. If this video helped you see time from a different perspective, share it with someone you know who is always saying they're too busy to pursue what they truly want. And if you want to keep building a life with more discipline, more clarity, and more direction, follow along for the next videos. Thank you for giving me some of your most valuable time today. I'll see you in the next video.